Hi everybody, I'm Nicole Zimmer, Chief Steward, Teamsters Local 135's Airline Division, representing all of the flight attendants at Republic Airways Holdings. It is Labor Day today, and I'd like to say Happy Labor Day to all of our flight attendants. If you're flying today, we're thinking about you, and if you have an opportunity to get that last-minute camping trip in with your family, we do hope that you're enjoying yourself. Do have some great news for you for this Labor Day. All Republic Airways Holdings flight attendants will be getting a raise. That is, if you want one. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, stay tuned in the video. We're going to talk about the fact that the negotiating committee has a tentative agreement with the company. And this video is to tell you all about that tentative agreement, explain it to you, hopefully answer questions that you have. And then, if you still have questions, we'll be coming around to all of the bases over the next couple of weeks, and we'll be able to answer your questions then. So stay with me here in the video, and let's talk about what's coming soon. Okay, so here's the deal. This is actually an 18-month extension to the current contract. Now, it's not a complete rewrite, and at the end of the video, I'll talk to you about why the negotiating committee decided to go ahead and accept the company's offer and put it out for a vote to the membership. But for now, let's talk about what you can expect in the way of pay raises, and if I can get you to get out your contract and go to Article 3, you will find the pay chart there. Now, all Republic Airways Holdings flight attendants fall somewhere in that final column, with the exception of about a dozen of you who are actually off the chart. Now, what's going to happen is the pay chart will be replaced with a new pay chart, and the new pay chart reflects approximately 2% increase in pay. So upon ratification of the agreement, all Republic flight attendants would get approximately 2% increase in their pay, with the exception of that dozen that's off the chart. Yours is going to be a little bit different. The calculations are a little bit different, and so we're going to be getting with all of you individually to talk about how this TA affects you. But for the majority of flight attendants, the raise is approximately 2%. Now, the other thing that's going to happen is, because this is an 18-month agreement, as long as you're active with the company, at some point during that 18 months, you're going to reach your anniversary, which is also known as your longevity date with the company, and you would naturally be entitled to your longevity increase anyway, as you see currently in the last column of the pay chart. But because that pay chart is going to be replaced with a new one that's got approximately 2% increase on it, you're actually going to be getting 2% more than you normally would have gotten. So it's actually like 2% and 2%. So, or at least anyway, if you're in that last column. And again, if you're not in that last column, we'll talk to you individually. If we haven't called you, call us and we'll explain it to you. But for the most part, it's 2% and 2%, and that's what we can expect in the way of pay. Now, what we want to talk about is the other changes in the TA and what you can expect there. Okay, moving right along, the other changes to the contract under this tentative agreement would be in the areas of the attendance policy. Now, if you haven't done so already, I would recommend that you go ahead, print out a copy of the TA. You'll find it in the union's new website, and follow along with me so that the video makes more sense to you. Also, keep in mind, this video really is just a highlight of the changes, and you're going to want to go ahead and read that language for yourself so that you make an educated vote. Also, it's a good idea to get out the current attendance policy and have that handy as well so that you can do your own side-by-side comparison and be able to follow what I'm talking about. Now, I will tell you that the negotiating committee is really excited about this proposal because we know it's going to save hundreds of jobs. And we're not talking about people who are deadbeats or unreliable. We're talking about the average flight attendant. Now, let me clarify. The average flight attendant here usually teeters at around 4 to 5 occurrences in a 12-month period of time. That's not unusual considering what we're exposed to. It's not unusual. And then also when you take into account commuting issues and things of that nature, it's not unusual for a flight attendant to be at a verbal warning level. But God forbid, you no-call, no-show, you could find yourself in the unemployment line. And that's happened to a lot of our flight attendants, some of them very senior. And it's really unfortunate when we lose a flight attendant who's been here 15 years because they make an honest mistake. The minute you think it can't happen to you, it will happen to you. You could misread your schedule, you could oversleep. It can happen to anybody. We've lost a lot of people from that. And with the changes in the new attendance policy, that's going to save those people. Now, again, we're not talking about people who can't show up for work, because the caveat is that even though it would only be worth 2 points under the new attendance policy, the language does say that if you have 2 no-call, no-shows in a 12-month period of time, you'd still be subject to termination regardless of where you are point value wise. Now that's no worse off than what we are right now, but with the changes that we were able to negotiate with a reduction in the point, then that means that most flight attendants who are reliable, who accidentally no call no show, will still have a job. But if you're someone who continually does it, this policy is not going to help you. Those changes are not going to help you. Now the other changes that we're really excited about have to do with the tardiness. Now what we've seen that's happened very frequently, and the company's seen it as well, so some of these changes they actually recommended, believe it or not, and that has to do with the areas of tardiness. Now many times flight attendants will be running late and they try to beat the clock, they don't notify scheduling, and if they don't get there on time and someone calls looking for them, they could be charged with a no-call, no-show. And I've seen that happen all the time. I see it happen probably 10, 15 times a week, believe it or not. And it's really dangerous. It's like playing Russian roulette, but people do that because there's no wiggle room there. And then the other thing is that a lot of flight attendants, if they're running 15 or 20 minutes late, they realize that they're going to get the point anyway, and so they go ahead and they call off. And with the changes, that would discourage a lot of that behavior. And the reason is because under the attendance policy that we have now, you don't have many opportunities to have a tardiness worth only a half a point. With the TA, a tardiness of more than 6 minutes, but in time for your scheduled departure time, and I'm not talking about show time, I'm talking about departure time, provided that you've notified scheduling and you don't cause a delay in your own or another flight, it would still only be worth a half a point. So that's going to stop a lot of people who are calling off unavailable or calling off sick. God forbid, don't call off sick if you're not really sick. But those people that are doing that because they're thinking they're going to get the full point anyway, that's going to stop some of that behavior. And also those people that are playing Russian roulette and rushing to get there and not calling scheduling, this will discourage some of that behavior because it's really in your benefit to go ahead and call them. So go ahead and read the language and you'll see what the changes are there on the tentative agreement, but we're really excited about that change because we know that it's going to make a big difference for people. Now the other changes are in the perfect attendance incentive areas. I want to go into that with you a little bit more detail. I will tell you that most flight attendants aren't able to attain 6 months of perfect attendance under the current agreement. It's very hard for people to do that. The other problem with the current agreement is that you don't get a point taken off of your record if you go 6 months of perfect attendance if you're not on a verbal or a written warning level. Now a lot of people don't realize that, but don't take my word for it. Look in the agreement. You have to be on a verbal or a written in order to have a point taken off, and if you're on a suspension you can't have a point taken off. And really it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because what's happening is that if you are someone who only gets 1 or 2 points in a year and you go 6 months of perfect attendance, you get no credit other than the vacation time. You don't get any points dropping off, you're not eligible. But then if you're someone who has 4 points or 6 points, you do. So that's kind of unfair. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And then the other thing that doesn't make sense is if you're someone who's at a suspension level, which is 7 points, and you manage to clean up your act and go 6 months of perfect attendance, you currently aren't eligible to have a point drop off. So those are some of the changes that we wanted to see in the attendance policy, and we were able to get that for you, and we're really excited about that because for one, more people are going to qualify for the perfect attendance incentives. Now let me clarify, under the current agreement you got to go 6 months. With the new agreement, you would actually only have to go 3 months of perfect attendance, and if you were able to go 3 months, you'd be eligible to have a half a point drop off. And you'd actually be able to go all the way into the negative up to 2 full points. Now that's something that we currently don't have, so that right there is a big change, and we're really excited about that, and we think that you will be as well. So you can earn a half a point off for every 3 months of perfect attendance for a total of up to 2. You can bank 2. So that's one of the great changes about the policy. So a few months ago what happened was we approached the company and asked them if they would be willing to consider giving our flight attendants raises while we continue to negotiate the rest of the contract, because it has been 2 years since any of us have had a contract raise and our flight attendants are starving. And they didn't completely reject the idea, but the timing was really bad. The losses had just come out on Frontier. They didn't look very good, and they didn't believe that the board would approve raises for us over here. So they said, you know, look, we're not completely objecting to it, but the timing is just really bad. We can't talk to you about it right now. So we just continued along with our normal negotiations. Now, fast forward several months, they actually approached us and said, look, you know, we realize that morale is horrible at the company with the flight attendants. We understand that. We understand that the flight attendants need money in their pocket. We understand that negotiations are going really slow and we're not getting enough face-to-face time like you would like, and we're, you know, being pulled in a million different directions. We understand all of that. The losses aren't as bad at Frontier now as what they were, and so what we'd like to do is give your flight attendants a raise, put a new attendance policy in effect that's going to save a lot of jobs, and hopefully by doing these two things it would improve morale amongst the groups and also keep flight attendants, because they do want to keep flight attendants just like we want to keep flight attendants, and they believe that with the raises and the change to the attendance policy that would help with that problem. So they came to us about it, and we had to sit down as a committee and really decide whether we would just completely reject this offer and walk away from it, or whether we would put it out for a vote to you. And we just felt that the changes were good enough that they definitely the decision needed to be made by you. And so we voted as a committee unanimously to put this out, this tentative agreement, for you to vote on and let you make the decision for yourself. We do believe that it's a good deal, and I'm going to tell you why we believe that is because with a normal 18-month extension, you would reopen negotiations 6 months prior, so for us that would be in a year from now, and there was no way in the world that we could agree to something like that because we are so far behind in our negotiations. So we were actually able to get the company to agree that even though it's an 18-month extension, we would continue to meet monthly for operational reasons and to discuss areas and identify areas that would be fit for negotiations when we reopen, and also get them to agree that we would actually reopen negotiations in 6 months from now instead of from a year from now. And that basically is going to give them a little bit of breathing room, hopefully to get the contract resolved with the pilots and get out of mediation, get some of the restructuring efforts done over at Frontier, and then we sit down and we start negotiating again on the entire contract. So basically what we're losing out of this is just 6 months of actual proposal exchanges, but we're going to continue to meet with them. We're going to be negotiating anyway, but the official negotiations and the passing across of the proposals, that would actually stop for 6 months. It gives them a little bit of breathing room, and that's basically all we're giving up for the 18-month extension. So we really feel that while it's not everything that we hoped for, and it's certainly not the rewrite that we're working on, it would get raises in everybody's pocket right now. It would put an attendance policy in effect that would save hundreds of jobs. It would help with the morale here, and we really felt that it would be beneficial for us to put this out for a vote. So that's what we're doing, and we're going to be coming around to all the bases. We're going to talk to you. We're going to answer your questions. Again, the tentative agreement is located on the new website. You can download it yourself, take a look at it, read the language, and then as soon as we have the vote set up, we will notify you about that, and everybody will have an opportunity to vote, and then we'll go from there. If it gets voted down, then we just have to go back to the negotiating table and start all over, and quite frankly, considering how slow everything's been going and all the stalling, we're not losing out much there in that area, but I have to tell you that there really is not much that we're giving up for this, and it's just, it's worthwhile. So we do believe that this proposal would be beneficial to the majority of our flight attendants. We're not giving up a lot, 6 months of back and forth of proposals. 6 months is going to go by really fast, and it's going to get raises in everybody's pockets, and it's going to save some jobs. So we think it's a good proposal, and we've decided that it's good enough to put out for a vote of the membership. We did not feel that we would be acting in the best interest of our group if we were to completely reject this. Now, you're going to have to vote your own conscience, okay? We're going to come around to all the bases. We're going to answer your questions. We'll have all the information up on the website. At the end of the day, you have to vote your conscience and what you feel is best, and we understand that. But we do believe that this will ratify. We do believe that everyone will be getting raises soon and a new attendance policy. And in 6 months from now, we'll start negotiating again back and forth with the proposals on the entire agreement, and hopefully sometime next year we can have the entire agreement done with all the great changes in scheduling and all the other areas that we want. So that's our plan. That's the reason we made that decision. We hope that you'll support us in it and that you'll vote yes for the TA, and we're looking forward to seeing you at your base. If you have any questions, let us know, and you can reach us on the Flight Attendant Helpline 317-758-7538, or go to the new website, which is IBT4RJET.org. That's IBT4RJET.org. Hope to see you there. Love you all. Bye-bye.